Hey everybody, today I'm going to do things a little bit backwards. I'm going to clip in the story first and then go to the recipe where I made banana bread muffins. They turned out pretty good. I would add more sugar just because I have a sweet tooth. I told you it was an AI recipe. I'm going to swap the recipe to the end because the mayhem of me cooking in my kitchen, like I'm not Inga Garden or Gordon Ramsay. You see me off screen, and because I don't videotape myself ever, essentially my cooking skills are so random that I'm going to put the story to the front, the recipe at the end for people that actually want a banana bread recipe, but most of the recipe is like my hands and the top of my head because I'm cooking and I have no ability to like stare at the camera while I'm cooking because I'm just not that coordinated. Okay, nobody was at my door. There was a dog walking by. I had the alert with the 4 dogs tell me that they were there. Back to the story. So 1998, Kenya, the American embassy is bombed. Multiple people are killed. The building has exploded. At the same time, in Tanzania, another bomb had gone off and killed a bunch of people. Different teams of agents, since we have bomb expertise, were going out. My expertise is that I would be supporting the criminal division and doing a wiretap. I had done quite a few wiretaps at that time and helping the Kenyan police investigators try to capture who did the bomb. So on arrival, we stay at the Intercontinental Hotel. My husband was not pleased that I was going. We were recently married, not really recently, because we had lived with each other for 5 years. But he thought it was very dangerous, and I said, being an FBI agent is dangerous, so I'll see you later. So we get on the 141, and my husband, who was on the hostage rescue team at that time, said, listen, you're going to want to bring some things with you. And I'm like, what kind of things? I got my gun, you know, I got a nice jacket, I got hiking boots, what do I need? And he's like, I want you to bring duct tape, 100-mile-an-hour cord, and a really great sleeping bag. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of random, but I'll do that. So I put that all in my suitcase, and they load up the water, they load up the FBI agents. You know, I have lots of bullets because I hear that there's unrest in the city. And so I have probably 20 magazines loaded for my guns that I'm bringing with me at that time. And all the other agents similarly have lots of weapons with them because we know that we're going to go out and do interviews and probably pick up people. So we get to Kenya, and the hotel is nice, but the city's having problems. Grave robbers are coming in to pick watches off the dead bodies, and we have a team of people that are guarding all the people that were murdered in this event. The poor Marines, I think one died trying to get the secret documents put away when the bomb went off and the building collapsed. And that whole area is in ruins. And the city is very upset. So I get introduced to our counterparts there who were lovely. My counterpart's name was Sammy. Sammy's a big African intelligence officer that is not afraid of anything, and he's probably like 48, and at that time I think I'm 28, and we go out daily interviewing suspects and have a variety of things that happen while we're out there. I am loaded down with bullets, and the second day out, we are roadblocked in. I don't know if it's to rob us or to prevent us from interrogating the terrorists that committed this offense. And Sammy gets out of his car and he puts a gun to the temple of the gentleman that was blocking our police car in. and he says, move the fucking car or you're not gonna see tomorrow. And I'm kind of shocked because, you know, American police and FBI can't really like kill somebody in the middle of the road, but I'm not, Dorothy, you're not in Kansas anymore. And I just zip it and don't say a word, and I go, hey, like, what was that all about? And he goes, he's trying to stop us so they could attack us. I said, hey, thanks for that response. So we go out to pick up a gentleman that we believe is involved, and he has bodyguards at his residence. And that's not uncommon, just because there's a lot of crime in Africa. And we get out there, and I said, you know, do you want me to guard the exit in case he runs? And he goes, he will not run. And I said, but he's kind of involved in blowing up the building. You don't want me to guard the exit? He's like, he will not run. And I said, Sammy, why is he not going to run? He goes, because he will be dead if he runs. And I said, well, what about the bodyguards? He goes, they will be dead as well. And I go, oh. I said, well, what about warrants and stuff? And he goes, we don't have warrants here. And I said, well, what about civil rights? He goes, no such thing as civil rights. If you don't tell me what I need to know, it is a long walk off a short building. I go, oh, well, but don't do that in front of me, because we can't do that, because I don't kill people unless I am in fear of my life, and I'm not in fear of my life right now. He goes, you might be. And I go, okay, I'll keep that in mind. So we go out to arrest the guy, and I'm thinking that, you know, we're gonna handcuff him because, you know, I carry my handcuffs. No such thing in Africa. They just put them in the trunk of the car, or they put them in the back seat. And the bodyguards come over to stop us, and Sammy pulls his gun, and I pull my gun, and the guy waves off his bodyguards, and he complies, and he comes with us, and we deliver this gentleman for further interrogation with a different team at the headquarters. So I never see this gentleman again, and nor do I know what happened to him. I just know that we dropped him off with the interrogation team. So while this is all happening, they decide that I'm going to teach the Kenyan CID how to minimize a wiretap, and we're going to teach them that if it's not a bad guy on the phone, that you turn off the sound and don't record, and then you turn it back on a couple minutes later, which they don't comprehend at all, because they listen to everything in their country, and this is 1998, and I'm trying to say, well, we can't use it in our courts unless you do what I say, so we're going to run this wiretap. And they all sit in a room, and I give them guidance, and I teach them like I'm a kindergarten teacher, and they're looking at me like, this woman's crazy. And I was young, and obviously they were going to do whatever they wanted to do. So I tell my boss, I said, oh, the wiretap's all set up on these different places that we believe that are the terrorists that are involved, so we can apprehend them. We're ready to go. I've taught them how to use the equipment. And, you know, back then, everything was handwritten. It was reel-to-reel or cassettes. There was no, like, digital automatic dictation devices. It was very low-level, like, crime interception. So, anyway, I asked the technician, can you show me where we're going to set up the cassettes and the recording devices so I can put that in the listening room? And, you know, the guy's maybe like 21 years old. He's younger than me, and I'm like relieved, like, oh, somebody younger than me. So the guy in the white coat takes me down to this big room of like wall-to-wall, reel-to-reels, and they're wiring the device through the ceiling of their headquarters, and he's unreeling the wire that's going to go to the listening room, and he takes me in the room where they're going to record the bad guy. And then while I'm in the room, I see the Intercontinental hotel rooms for all the agents labeled also connected to listening devices. So each and every one of our rooms was also being recorded so they could listen to us while we were in their country. And I'm like, oh, this is bad. I'm going to pretend like I didn't see that, because if I do say that I saw it, I might end up dead, because I now know that they're intercepting all our conversations while we are assisting them in their country, and that might not bode well for our political environment. So I kind of go back and I whisper to my boss, I said, hey, like, not for nothing, but tell all the agents not to say anything in their rooms or get compromised or meet girls or do anything like that, because they're recording all of us. And my boss goes, I'm sure you're mistaken. And I think that, like, he doesn't believe me, but he does believe me. He just doesn't want to be told that, and I wasn't smart enough to know that. And I go, but no, really. And he's like, no, I'm sure you're mistaken. And I go, oh, like, you know, I got it. So we go back, we make a lot of arrests. They take me to another room where somebody's been interrogated. Clearly different people have been shot, because there's still bullets in the cement wall, and the blood hasn't been cleaned up well. And I come back shocked again, because I'm like 28 years old, and I'm like, hey, they're killing people that they're interviewing. At least it looks like that, because there's bullet holes and blood in that room. And then I get, I'm sure you're mistaken. And I go, yeah, I think I'm mistaken. So we go on, we stay there for several weeks. We investigate, we apprehend quite a few people. A couple of our agents that got in a car accident ended up unconscious, and they were stripped naked, no guns, no watches, no nothing, just like left in their underwear when they were unconscious. And they were like, be careful out there, like, don't go to any restaurants, stay at the hotel. This is what happened to these two agents. And I'm getting bored. I mean, even though the work is very exciting, I'm a young woman, and I really want to eat something different than hotel food. So I go downtown Kenya with another agent, and we are at a delicious Italian restaurant, and I'm eating like my third bite of pasta, and I look to my left, and there is a huge gun battle in the street, and I don't know who the good guys are or who the bad guys are, and bullets are flying everywhere, and I'm like, shit, we better go. And as we get out in the bustle of all this, because there's bullets flying, we're gonna get into our cars. So we're getting into our cars, and this huge group of children come around us, and I think that they're scared, because I'm a young woman. I think, oh, the children must be naive. But what I find out is that these children have weapons, and they're gonna rob us as we're getting into our car. And luckily, there's a local police officer in a soldier's outfit who keeps them at bay, and he has a whip. And I'm absolutely mortified that they're whipping children, but then I realize that the children have weapons, and he's keeping them away from us. So we dash in the car and drive as fast as we can back to the hotel and go unscathed. And we don't tell anybody, because I'm like, oh, like, this is why we're not supposed to go out to eat at night. And my husband calls me at home, and he's like, how is everything going? And I'm like, it's great, like, no problem. We're having a good time. Very exciting. It's an interesting experience. So we go through, we make a lot of arrests, we get a lot of documents, the wiretap goes well. We proceed to have all the interviews that were actually legal applied to the court case, and the wiretap goes well, and we have good relationships with our counterparts there. I keep my mouth shut about the recording devices and the bloody wall with the bullets, because I would like to get home to my husband. And then while we're there, Bill Clinton decides to bomb what is believed to be a weapons lab that's related to the bombing event in Kenya. And I'm laying in my bed and I get a knock on my hotel room door and they're like, we're evacuating. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, is there a bomb in the hotel? Like, what's going on? Why are we evacuating? Like nothing's going on. And he's like, no, the president has just bombed a facility. We need to get out of the country and take our evidence out of here to support our case. Everybody's meeting on the tarmac. Get in your cars and pack up all your gear, and we're getting out of here. It's not that we're not coming back, but we're leaving right now. And I say, okay. So I pack up all my stuff. I have my boots right next to my bed because God knows when you're going to have to run out of the place in case there's a bombing. So I grab my boots, I put them on my feet, and we fly back. And while we're flying back, I get to see a mid-air refueling out of the little portal window. Coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. This little tube comes down from this jet that filled up the 141. Oh, and I forgot. The plane engines caught on fire on the way there, and because we could talk to the pilot, I said, hey, is there a problem with our engine being on fire? And he goes, oh, no, we can fly on 2 engines, even 1 engine if we need. And they were completely unfazed about the plane engine being on fire, and that happened on the way there, so that was also interesting. So I'm on the way back, and I decide, I'm gonna go to sleep, and I pull my sleeping bag out, which is, rated for winter camping, and I'm on the floor of the 141 because everybody's in jump seats for parachutes because that's all there is, and then there's pallets of water in our suitcases, and I'm in my sleeping bag, and I take the 100-mile-an-hour cord with the duct tape, and I use my clothing to fashion a little tent over my head, so I could sleep on the plane back and get some rest because it's a huge flight. We'll probably end up in Frankfurt on the way back. And I'm sleeping and I hear, hey, Bridget, I'll pay you $100 if you let me sleep in the sleeping bag. And I'm like, no, fuck off. I'm not giving you my sleeping bag. And then I hear 200, and I'm like, nope. 300, I'm like, nope. And I'm like, and 300 is the equivalent of over $1,000 now back in 1998. And I'm like, nope, it's mine. I'm not sharing. I'm sleeping in this. Go get your clothes out of your bag. I said, my husband told me I would need this. I got my sleeping bag, I got my 100-mile cord, and I got my duct tape, and I got my little tent in the plane, and I'm going to sleep. I sleep all the way because I'm exhausted to the trip to Frankfurt. I realized that there is a Rhine River wine trip that you can take while you're there. I know that we're going to be there for a couple days. I call up and order the trip, which is $100. And a girlfriend and I that also work for the FBI, we get on the wine tasting adventure on the boat, right on time, German precision. A chauffeur shows up at the hotel. I have our tickets. They pick us up. They take us to the wine cruise. We get to drink wine all down the Rhine. We go in a little cave and have a wine tasting. And I come back home, and my husband goes, who's been on tons of adventures, right? Because he's on the hostage rescue team. He goes, how was it? I go, fabulous. Loved it. Had a great time. A little scary. But all in all, it was a great trip. And he goes, I don't want you to do that. And I go, I don't care. And he goes, well, I'm your husband. I said, and? You're my husband. He goes, well, I want to be the father of your children. And I said, well, you haven't asked me to have children yet. And he goes, well, we're going to take care of that right now. By 3 weeks later, I was pregnant with our first son, so that kind of put a damper on my adventures, but not too much. And that was a big surprise that I got pregnant so quickly. And that's how Grayson was made, because his father wanted to keep his wife in check and keep her at home more frequently. Anyway, that is my semi-murder crime story for the day, and I'm gonna put this batter in these muffin cooks and cook it, and then I'm gonna clip in if it turns out, and I'll tell you if it tastes great or not. Nice chatting with you, and have a lovely day. Bye. Good morning, everybody. Just got in from a walk with my doggos, and it's a little bit wet out. Wearing my Aston Martin hat, because who doesn't like an Aston Martin? Since I don't have one, I'm trying to manifest it for my husband by wearing it on my head. Today, we're gonna make some banana bread and tell some more stories in the kitchen. What we need are 4 very ripe bananas, half a cup of melted butter, a half a cup of granulated sugar, a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 2 eggs that I kind of whisked on my way in the door, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I'll probably just toss that in as goes. A 1/4 cup of sour cream. I just made it. That was the last of the sour cream. 1½ cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, and a pinch of salt. And you can add chocolate chips or walnuts if you like. So, preheat oven to 325. You're gonna miss me because that's what I'm doing right now. That seems so randomly low for a temperature. Okay, it says, this is my first time making this recipe. I've made banana bread loads, but I asked AI to give me a moist banana bread. People say they hate that word moist. Don't know why. These are kind of brown, not completely brown, but I think will do. I'm gonna put my coffee out of the way. Haven't had a chance to drink that yet. And we gotta mash these up first, so here's the bowl. We're gonna mash that. And it says, in a separate bowl, mix your flour, baking soda, and cinnamon, nutmeg, and salt. And then mash your bananas, whisk in melted butter, then add bowl sugars, eggs, vanilla, and sour cream. So, since I'm a very random cook, and I rarely pay attention to specifics in any kind of recipe because I just kind of glob stuff together, and I'm certainly not gonna use 2 bowls to make 1 mix for banana bread. So those look roughly mashed. Oh, that needs about 10 seconds in the microwave. Now on the walk, it got all hard. All right, close. Start. It's crazy how that got all hard on my walk. I didn't think I was gone for that long with the doggies. Sugars. 1, 2. Vanilla. We're just gonna pour that in because that's easy. And then sour cream. Okay, I'm gonna mash that crap up. There we go. This is a little bit of a wrist workout to develop my pickleball muscles since I play pickleball at least 4 times a week. Very average. I did medal in the Senior Olympics, but they are the Senior Olympics, meaning I only competed against seniors. I took bronze with my girlfriend in a Moneyball tournament, and we played a bunch of 20-year-olds, so that made me feel a lot better. So I got everything all churned up. Kind of looks like diarrhea right now. Hopefully we won't have any of that in the house with the dogs. And then we need to gently fold in dry ingredients. So we got the cinnamon. Oop. I like cinnamon. I don't know what everybody else thinks about cinnamon, but I always add more than necessary. So that was about a teaspoon. There goes our baking soda. And mash that in again. And then we need a butter. Oh, yikes, that butter is way too hot. That is very bad. All right, we're gonna pause this for 1 second. Okay, we had to fix that big mistake. I was burning that butter up. Okay, now I've got melted butter. That's a stick, half a cup. And then I've got my pinch of salt, my flour, and 1.5 cups of flour, which seems very light on flour. We're using AI for this. He put together a couple of recipes. So this is a true test of the AI intelligence. He says mix until the flour disappears and don't over mix. He's kind of being naggy when I talk to him. Claude and I have a personal relationship. He gives me advice all the time. So we are folding in the dry ingredients. So to recap what that was, 4 bananas, a 1/2 cup of melted butter, a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/4 cup of sour cream, 1.5 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, and a pinch of salt. I like walnuts, so I got some walnuts. Walnuts are good for your brain, and when you're old, you need that cognitive center to be working and those neurons firing. So I am going to put in some crunchy walnuts. These are going to be muffins. And then I'm going to tell you a story. Okay. So, as I fold this in, back in 1998 when I was an FBI agent, because yes, I did become an FBI agent, and that's another story. They had the bombing in Kenya, and I decided that I was going to help out, and I was one of the first people to raise my hand. I was married at that point. Came home and tell my husband I was getting on a 141, and they were going to load up me in the cargo plane, and we were going to